pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll now call the regular city council meeting to order, and I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second? Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried 5-0. Public forum limited to agenda items only. Anybody wish to speak? There being none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Number 6, strategic plan discussion. Mr. Payne.
You want any introduction there? Just go for it.
Well, I'm a little surprised. I thought Zach was going to handle
Yeah,
it. but-
I can do that. So it's been kind of my belief now for some time that as a governing body, we have some sort of a strategic plan in place to help us be more proactive instead of reactive. So with that being said, I've worked with Roger, and we asked Mr. Payne to come speak to us about his experience with strategic planning and the importance of implementing one. So there's your introduction.
Very good, very good, thank you. I'm assuming that everybody in the room knows me by my reputation, probably not by actual meeting each and every one of you, but I'll just go through a bit of an introduction myself here. Most of you know that I've been the previous city administrator in Hillsborough. And for the last couple of years, I've been a volunteer senior advisor for our statewide city management association. And Roger and Zach asked me to come over a week or so ago to talk about this process in preparation for today. The work that I do is 100% volunteer. I do not get paid by anyone, including you. I wanted to make that point because I was thinking about that on the way over here today. The association does pay mileage for me, but that's neither here nor there. Some of the work that I've done in the past that you may have some reference to is that, a few years ago, I was involved with Kansas Power Pool. Marianne is a member of the pool. Several years I was, I think 3 terms as president of the board in different years, so I've had some experience there. I've also worked with KMU, also been president of the board, and working with American Public Power Association. And they ironically gave me an award for being a city administrator that works in 7 different areas. They call that 7 hats: planning, utilities, administration, and I don't know what all 7 are because it's been a while since they issued that thing. The point of today is for me to talk a little bit about the value of strategic planning. Strategic planning is a process that has come to the government sector from business. Businesses spend a good deal of time trying to figure out what they do and where they're going and how to plan and how to accomplish the goals, objectives that they have worked with. Government has stolen, is a big word, appropriated that process to the work that we've done. And over my career working with quite a number of different cities, I've participated in strategic planning processes. Some of them have been more complicated than others. The whole idea is to have the community figure out what they would like themselves to be in a future period of time. Sometimes, at least when I first started out in my city management career, cities were looking at 20-year timeframes. And then they rolled it back to 10, and now they're really working at 5-year increments. Because in 5-year increments, you're better able to figure out where you're going and what you want to do, and the most important part, accomplish that. So the key element here is how you decide how you want to improve your community and to help you make decisions. One of the things that I found is, as I've been going through this from my own professional experience, is that when you have that strategic plan, somebody comes in from the outside with a wild hair idea, and everybody says, "Ooh, this is a good thing." But we turn that back to say, how does this fit with the strategic plan that we put together? You know, because as an example, not in specific terms, but an idea could take you away from what you wanted to accomplish when you set your strategic plan. It is a tool that's going to help you and Roger recruit employees. You know, when we were talking a week or so ago, Roger mentioned the effort of trying to find a new economic development director. Something like this is a document that will help Roger find the right person, and for that person to figure out that they want to work for you. Because if you've got an idea where you want to go, it's a lot easier when you hire any of your staff to say, well, they've got a clue about what they want to do, so I feel comfortable about making the investment of joining this organization. So that's a very important part of what you need to do. The other part of this element is, you know, when you put these things on your website, there are a number of people who will troll your website and look at things like this to figure out, are you a community that I want to move to? You know, and the lack of having something, you know, causes people to, the people that you would like to have move to your community, say, you know, I don't see anything like that. I don't see any forward thinking. I don't think that's a place for me. You know, so there's a real value to that, because you'll end up with people that will select your community to relocate. You never know how many people look for things like that, unless you've got a real dark secret process that says, you know, people that click on that item can be identified. I've not seen anybody really do something like that. There's a reason that if you don't do something like strategic planning, some not so healthy things happen. You end up with a stagnant economy because nobody sees the forward thinking that you would have as you go through a process like this. Communities get low self-esteem because they don't have an idea what they're trying to deal with. I've been in a number of places, not where I've worked, but you know, where I visited, where that is absolutely obvious, where people don't have an idea about what their community is and how it should be, and they look like they're on a death spiral. That's one of the last points that I've got. Next to last. The last point I've got there is that, you know, it sends a message that you don't have control over the destiny of your community. You know, and that's something that you really want. You want to be able to to guide, well, that's why you got elected. I think, I know that many of the council members that I worked with, you know, they all wanted the best for their community, but sometimes they didn't know how to do it. And, you know, processes like this ask the tough questions about what it is you want to see in a period of time for the next couple of years. So, I know that you've done something in this area in the past. Roger provided me a list of some things that the council did by identifying some efforts that you did in 2015. I'm gonna read the list. These are things you planned for and you accomplished. You know, so I'm gonna use that as a means of saying, you know, when you push these things forward, you know, you, the staff, and people behind me, you know, whatever, they focus on doing the things that you want to have happen. Here's your list. Wi-Fi in public places, expanded recreational opportunities, resource sharing in the county, urban renewal and neighborhood revitalization, create an enterprise tax incentives, collaborative charity relief efforts, preservation of family values and in your quaint community atmosphere. And then lastly, define and redefine areas for future growth and development. So, you know, you've done some of this work in the past. You know, my job today is just to, you know, come with the key to the lock and open up the door to help you make a decision to move along in a process that's similar to what you've already done in the past. So, you know, the last question I've got is, who can help you? Well, I know the fellow that replaced me over in Hillsborough was involved with Wichita State University, and they did, in the group that he was in, did strategic planning. I provided Roger some contact information from those people. Now, who's going to be involved in this? Well, from the concept of what I know that WSU uses, and those that the processes that I was involved in several different communities that I had, you know, we've had just city council, and we've had people from the community, some from the business community, from the residential community, planning commission, staff, all involved in something like this. Everybody has an idea about where you should be in the next few years. And those things need to be on the table. And when you get them out and you start prioritizing them, you figure out real quickly what's important to you. And then you turn around and say, all right, staff, help us get that done. So I think I'm gonna stop there and just suggest that, you know, if you've got any questions, you know, feel free to throw them at me and we'll see how well I do. Anyone?
Yeah, I like the idea of being proactive instead of reactive. I've always felt that way, and it's always my goal. But on the strategic plan, should you limit yourself to how many things you wanna do in a certain period of time? Because I can see where you might be
Yes.
overwhelmed.
The answer is definitely yes. The things that, in the last process that I was involved in Hillsborough in 2020, we had five major things. Housing, since I've slept since then, I don't really remember everything. Childcare, you know, economic development, some infrastructure improvements, that sort of thing, were part of that. Population growth was one. Yeah, don't bite off the entire elephant. You can't eat it.
Yeah.
Figure out what you wanna do, because there are things that you're gonna ask your staff to do. It's gonna take them some time to organize it, put things together, and then accomplish that. Think back on the 2015 process. It took you a few years to get those things done. So the answer is definitely yes.
Would you suggest like 5 to start with?
No, I'm gonna suggest that you figure that out.
Okay,
You know, I know that trying to do too much in too short a period of time will not be successful.
okay,
But, 5 is a good number.
okay. I mean, I can think of fiber optics, internet, and that would be one that,
Sure.
you know, we should look at. Should you start out with the 20-year plan first or the 5-year plan first?
Short term.
Okay,
You do short term because you want some success.
okay,
Think about 2015. You know, you put, there are 8 items on that list, but, you got them done.
Mhm.
And there's nothing wrong with the fact that you do things, you check them off your list, and it makes you feel better as a community. Look what we did. 20 years is 2040. How many in the room here are gonna be alive, Mike?
Right.
I'll just be more disgusted.
You gotta throw a few jokes out there. But clearly, the shorter term gives you a greater sense of accomplishment, and then you can go through the process again and say, all right, what are we gonna do for the next 5? Some
Okay.
readjustment, when you're driving the car down the highway, you're going from, in my case next week, I'm here to Colorado Springs to visit my daughter. There are speed limits back and forth, and I make adjustments. I know where I wanna go eventually, but there are some things that I need to make some adjustments for in order to get there properly. And so, includes stopping for restrooms, food, gas, those sorts of things. Those are the kind of things that you back off and identify that you can actually achieve along that long distance, rule.
So what would be our next step?
I think from what I've heard from, Zach and Roger is that, you probably ought to figure out, who you might want to help you in this process. I suggested to Roger, WSU, because, they're reasonably local, they're professional at doing a process like this. There are other people that are involved in that sort of thing. I've never worked with them, but I know of a number of people that have, and Matt Stiles in Hillsborough now, I know he's done that. And then in the last couple of years, in the last year or so, he's gone through a refresh of the strategic planning process that I did back in 2020 with the council and the community. So I'm confident they know what to do, but finding somebody that will help you do that, and that's Roger's job. All you need to do is say, Roger, go get it done.
Yeah, Roger, go get it.
See, in 2015, we put together 5 different stakeholder group meetings, and the plan initially was to come up with 3 to 5 targets. But we had the Power Ups group, which was the young adults in our community. We had a group from 408. We had a group from the medical community, and then we met with the county. And through the discussion, then that's where the priorities came up. And it was the Power Up group of USD that really wanted enhanced recreational activities. So that's where we went after the grants and various things there. That's where the partnership with Eagle to put the Wi-Fi public access in the central business district and down in the park came from. So having someone to help facilitate, coordinate, we can come up with a multitude of ways. If this is something council wants to do, we can use professional agencies, we can use internal, or we can come up with a hybrid mixture, which the Hugo School is very good at adapting to the community
Mhm.
And then they provide all the data collection, analytics, so forth. And I would envision this tying in very strongly, closely with what will ultimately be accomplished by planning and zoning and their comprehensive plan.
Yeah,
It needs to be dovetailed
right.
as we look through this.
Mr. Mayor, one of the things I would suggest here, if I were sitting in his chair and doing this sort of thing, what I would like from you, I'm gonna put words in his mouth, but I would suggest that as a council, you pass a motion to say, this is a project that we wanna get started, and then what that does is hand the ball off to Roger to get stuff done.
Okay. Any other questions? Answered all
The,
of them?
the only other question I had when you were talking about the reevaluate, is reevaluating something you think you do on like a yearly basis? And then if you do that, so let's say in 1 year you accomplish one of the goals that you set for yourself, is this something that you would then add and, you know, you come up with, okay, over the last year we accomplished this, now this is the next one that we wanna go.
You don't have to do it that way, but you can do it that way. You know, this is just something that is a process that you would decide on your own. It's neither required or not. You know, it's something that you have to feel comfortable about and say, all right, you know, we did that, is there something else that's gnawing on us that says, we need to pay some attention to this? And then you can add that.
The reevaluation checkpoint that occurred previously was our housing efforts were identified and we needed senior housing. So September 1 and then Victory Plaza were the initial projects out of the gate to get those in place. Then it evolved that we needed more senior housing that was not income controlled. So that's where September 2 modified their model. And then as this council came in 2020, the focus was, okay, we need for moderate income, and that's where the Coble Street project grew legs and ultimately will be moderate income.
Mhm.
So those are the reevaluation within the framework that you adopt for your vision.
Okay. Anybody else?
Sounds like a plan. I like the idea.
So would this be a resolution that we would pass?
At this point, it's
Good,
just a
Bob,
at this point, it's really just a motion of instruction to staff. Start developing options for you and bring them back. So
Okay, why don't we look at that next council meeting? Is that all right?
So, I mean, could we just pass it tonight? Is there a reason we would need to wait
Well, we haven't drafted it.
to pass the motion?
Well, we gotta draft the resolution of whatever it is we need.
Okay.
So, well, thank you. Sounds great.
Good.
We'll probably pick on you some more, maybe.
We'll talk.
Thank you, Larry.
You bet.
Thank you.
Okay, moving forward, number 7, resolution 22-11, conditional use permit for 826 North Roosevelt. Margo?
Okay, you've got 3 choices in your packet. The planning commission has sent you a recommendation to approve the conditional use permit for the Family Dollar retail business in the industrial park. You can agree with that and approve that, or deny it, or send it back.
Well, I would move to approve resolution 22-11, authorizing the conditional use permit for Family Dollar. Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded, any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 5-0. Resolution 22-12, rezoning of Vaught Industrial Park.
Okay, same way, you've got 3 choices. The difference here The, planning commission has recommended changing just the north corner. And, you guys were gonna do, more down south. So, this may make a difference on what you wanna do with this one. But they just chose to stay on track with what they had originally said. So, it's up in that corner where the, Dollar General is, and then, the lot beside it, and the one to the south, and then they also even included the Reserve B.
Okay. All right, well, I would move to approve resolution 22-12 then. Moving second, any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Number 9, resolution 22-13, modifications, parking regulations.
Okay, this one, you'll remember, you sent it back to them, and wanted them to add the addition of compacted gravel to the acceptable materials listed under 23-3.02 as subsection C. So, in our draft here, we would add that where it says concrete or brick pavers, asphalt, and then you guys wanted us to add, compacted gravel. They did not change what they sent to you. The way they understand it is if we add that, it would allow people to gravel the entire lot, and that wasn't the intent. The intent was not to be a hardship, to, require that they pave the minimum in their district that's required. And, we were hesitant that if we did that, we weren't even sure if it would allow for paving for an ADA space, so, they left it the way it was and sent it back, and you can either approve what they've sent you or deny it.
Well, I have a question, Margo, about, I read the minutes of the meeting and they stated that, they needed more information, and when we met with them, three of the members, we had an agreement, if they needed anything from us, I would make sure that a council member would be present to explain that, so why
They-
couldn't they have